The Arizona football defense looked absolutely atrocious against New Mexico, but got a little bit better in the second half. What should we expect against NAU?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. This show is brought to you today by FanDuel. Check it out at FanDuel, all kinds of good stuff. FanDuel.com. Again, football season is here, and we are in full season mode. That means that FanDuel.com is here for you. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the Arizona defense and where we basically reside at this point with the team. Now, listen. I think, and again, I could end up eating crow. I am on record, though, thinking that I think that this was a little bit of a one-off. And I think that with this team, I think there's still more than enough talent to be able to make this work. Now, again, I don't know that it's going to be as good as last year's defense because you got to keep in mind, last year's defense was really, really good. And it was a combination, too, that you had a lot of big guys up front, and that's something that as Arizona fans, we're not used to seeing a lot of big players up front. And Arizona could keep coming at you in waves, whether it was a Sione, whether it was a Tyler Manoa, whether it was a Kangaika, an Uiagalele, a Isaiah Ward, Trey Smith, etc., etc., etc. So that is something that we obviously need to keep a very, very close eye on. Now, one thing about it, though, is that I think in this starting four that you have a ton of, you've got players that you know can play. And it's going to be up to them to really be able to kind of show that. Now, it's going to start with the defensive line. Listen, Jacob Manu was out of position a ton this past game, but I also, again, I'm going to chalk that up as a one-off because we already know absolutely what Jacob Manu can do, and here's the hint, Jacob Manu is good. But Trey Smith, got to get a bigger game out of him. Trey Smith has got to be that dude on the defensive line, and we've talked about that. He has got to be the guy who is around, he's just around the football. And when he's rushing the passer, he is able to get there and he's able to at least cause problems and he's able to hold the edge. That's something that you need out of Trey Smith. Last year, Arizona's defensive ends got between Taylor Upshaw and Davis and Ward, you got 8 sacks or 15 sacks combined. I don't necessarily need that from those two, but I need Ty and I need Trey Smith to be difference makers. And with Trey Smith, I don't think that there's any reason why he can't be. Again, there is a movement to Power 4 football. I get all of that, but I think that we are kind of at the stage, too, where you know that he can be better than he was. And Arizona needs him to be better than he was. And same thing with Ty. Ty is a player that is, his success is based off, his, rampant pressure, basically. And, just showing that, he's a full motor guy, for lack of a better term. That's where I think that Arizona really needs him. I look for both of those guys to have better games. I really do. And then on the interior as well. Now, it wasn't like New Mexico was just running the ball right down Arizona's throat. And that's, up the middle. And that's where that's why I'm not quite as concerned maybe as some other folks are, because that wasn't really the case in this game. But that might be splitting hairs to a certain degree. Up front, let's just be honest here. You need Arizona to be better up front. And that goes all the way across the board. Chuba, Isaiah Johnson, I thought were, okay, no problem. Obviously, Bear Anderson is going to be out for quite a while. But then after that, we've talked about it, you do have some depth there. But the D-line just got to be better. And a big part of that, too, is containing the edges. If you can contain the edge, then I think that you got to run up the middle. And if you run up the middle, that's where Jacob Manu is going to be there to meet you with some of the other players. Now, I do think that there is a little bit of a, I don't expect as much out of the front as I did last year. But Dwayne Aquina has said multiple times that he wants to be more aggressive than they were last year. He wants to be able to shoot the gaps and go up the middle. And if that's the case, then you're going to have to be able to have guys that can get to the quarterback. And we'll find out if Arizona's got that or not. I think they do, but we'll find out if Arizona's got that. Also, Jacob Manu put up a lot of stats, but was a lot out of place in this first game. And again, that's too where I'm kind of chalking this up as being just kind of a one game like jitters type, off, because you don't really see that out of him. He obviously had some impactful plays as well, but you got to be able to see that. All right, now with the rest of the linebacking core, Tay Brown, I don't know. The players that have been next to Jacob Manu, I'm not really sure. That's why I said I think that you're going to need to see some players in the box a little bit more from the safety position. We're going to obviously get to that one, but I do think that overall this team should be able to be a lot better defensively than it was. And again, I don't need this team to be I don't need this team to be I don't need this team to be great by any means defensively, but like I said, I need this team to be somewhere in the middle of. This team to be somewhere in the middle of the conference. If he's in the middle of the conference, then Arizona is going to be just fine. Now, when it comes to Dwayne Aquina is, like I said, I love the hire as the DC. It's also going to be up on him to be able to fix this. I mean, we talked about it a billion times. The guy is pure energy, and hadn't been a DC, I get all of that, but with his intricate knowledge of football, I expect him to be able to make some changes. And a big part of it too was look at what Arizona did last year when he came in there. Again, I like Johnny Nansen, but a big part of that was Dwayne Aquina fixing that defense, getting everybody on the same page, and I think that's what you've got to be doing here with this team. Because, again, you basically got one more dress rehearsal, and then you've got the game coming up. And if you got the game coming up after that, then, Arizona's got to take care of business. So we will find out. We will find out about that this one sooner than later. But, and we're going to talk about this more tomorrow, what I'm looking for against NAU is, that's going to be called a tease. We'll talk about that in a second. But the front just got to be better. The front's got to be better, and so much of that, and that's why I'm not too worried about it, is so much of that was just containment. You could tell too that that this team just needed a little bit of a how do I put it? Maybe a wake-up call? I don't know. But I expect to see a much, much better performance against NAU, because if you don't, then I think we got some real questions about where this team is at that point. But I do not expect to have to deal with those questions, because I think that Arizona is going to be just fine. Now, when it comes to the secondary, then that's where it gets interesting here, because keep in mind, Dwayne Aquina, obviously the secondary whisperer, but we will also talk about where exactly that stands in the grand scheme of things. But first. FanDuel, my friends, check it out. FanDuel. All kinds of really good stuff at FanDuel. FanDuel.com. The thing you love about FanDuel is college football is here. Not only is college football here, you know that that this is the place to bet. That is the great thing about FanDuel. Check it out. FanDuel.com. Another one of these ones, you will thank me later, because you got college football here. Not only do you have college football, you've also got the NFL right around the corner, as in here. You've also got the, basketball coming up here. And there's nothing more enjoyable than being able to get in on all of this while you know that you've got a little bit of skin in the game as well. So again, check it out. Like I said, I think that, like I said, this is the time to be there. So again, check it out, FanDuel.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, let's see where exactly the secondary in the grand scheme of things. I am more than okay with the secondary. Now, I think there are a few issues here, and I think a big one is where are the safeties? And obviously, Gunnar Maldonado, his status is a little bit up in the air. You don't love to hear that because, again, my bad, Gunnar. Gunnar became a real big part of the team, and you just don't know where he's going to be. So, but a couple other things too. Genesis Smith, even when he's out of position, even when he's not necessarily doing everything, the thing about Genesis Smith that I think we've definitely found out is that he also has a knack for the football, and that's something a lot of times that players of his size don't have. Just that overall knack for the football, being able to get to it, and again with another interception, he's just kind of showing that he knows, like I said, he knows where to be. He knows where to be around the football, and he's shown that he can do it. Now, a big part of this, though, also is what is the, where can you best utilize him? Because, again, didn't start, I get it, but he is so big, he's so physical that you can make a lot of different, moves with him, but he's got to be on the field. And not only does he have to be on the field, I think he's the type of dude that he's got to be able to be on the field basically the entire time. I get wanting to rotate and keep people healthy, totally get that, respect all of that, but there also comes a time and a place where you've got to have your best players out there. Genesis Smith is clearly one of your best players and a guy that Arizona 1,000% needs to be out there. So Genesis Smith, yes, we need to have him on the field. Again, the corners, Tacario Davis did some really, really odd things that you generally don't see because, again, it's not like he's a selfish player, but he made some real mistakes. And a big part of it, too, is that these were kind of selfish. I mean, these were personal fouls. These were, not only were these personal fouls, these were fouls that, you should have to miss the first half of another game. And it was just kind of weird seeing him do that because you generally don't see that from a player. I mean, he's a fairly mild-mannered kid, and it just didn't make a lot of sense what he was doing. So you got to be able to figure that one out, and he will. Again, he's a really good football player. His body of work is obviously very good, and so there's that. Traden Stukes, you saw it, pass deflections up near the line, going to get that. Marquise Groves-Killebrew with a PI, but again, with all of this, I know the talent level in the secondary, so I'm not particularly concerned about it. There are other positions that, I think that there are some reasons to be concerned, but this isn't one of them. I'm not really worried about the secondary. I'm not worried about the secondary at all, to be honest with you. Honestly, like I said, I'm going to give the defense a pass here. It was much, much better in the second half, but Arizona's got to be able to put that one out there. And I think that if it does, Arizona's going to be just fine because the offense is going to be absolutely dynamic. We're going to talk about the offense here in a little bit, but the defense, you just got to be better. The talent is there, and again, one thing I don't understand is people saying, well, it's super undersized. I don't really see it. Trey Smith is 6'6", 260. Ty 6'2", 280, 275. Up the middle, 6'5", 330, or 6'2", 335, 6'2", 315. I mean, again, it's not like last year's team where it was just massive, but it's a big enough group. You just got to be able to make plays. So that's where I'm at with that. I don't necessarily worry too much about that. I think that Arizona is going to be able to be just fine in that regard. But moving back to the offense or moving back to the expectations, I think, again, this team should be good. This defense should be good. It's more than good enough. You've got more than enough good players. Now, maybe you don't have a ton of NFL dudes, but it's more than good enough to be able to match up with other teams in the conference, and I expect them to be able to be better. Dwayne Aquina has said multiple times that he's got enough talent, so, you got to be able to make that one work. If you make it work, then I think we all feel a lot better about everything. All right, now, moving back to the offense here, you're going to see a lot of Matthew Lotto, and Matthew Lotto is a very intriguing player because if you talk with some people around the Arizona Phoenix high school scene, they'll say that he was the most underrated prospect in the class. He's got pretty good feet. He's just really, really raw. Ideally, you didn't want him to have to play this year, but you know what? Injuries happen. You got to have him out there. And here is where I am happy, though, because you're at least playing somebody with upside. I very much like that. When you're playing guys with upside, you know that they can get better, because ideally this dude's going to be one of your tackles for the next 2, 3, 4 years, because Big Jonah's moving on after this year. Big Jonah's going to play in the NFL, but after that, I think it's going to be fair to say that you want somebody like a Matthew Lotto, who's got some experience, and you can line him up opposite Rhino. Rhino's going to be out for a little bit, so I think you're hoping that he can be back by the Kansas State game. And if you are, then you're obviously in great shape. But Matthew Lotto, this is very much of a next man up type situation, and I think you need him to be able to play well. And if he can play well, then I think Arizona's going to be in really, really good shape. But right now, need him to just continue to get those reps. And he wasn't bad against New Mexico, so I am definitely going to give him that, and that he certainly didn't look like a lost cause or anything like that. He was so we'll see. There's like I said, there's a lot of potential there, but keep in mind he's also a true freshman. He's also a dude who, it might take a little bit of time, and if it takes a little bit of time, I am more than okay with that. I'm more than okay to let that one transpire, because again, there's a lot to like with him, and he's a big dude who has attacked the weight room. He likes being in the weight room, and things like that always really matter to me. So there's very much that. I'm excited to see what he can do. And if he can, I think if he can perform the way that, at least just kind of be a good stopgap, then I think that Arizona is going to be in some pretty good shape. That's where we're at with him, though. And then, honestly, it's just about getting depth. We talked about it before. You got to be able to get deeper with this squad. If you can get deeper with this squad, then it really bodes well for next year then as well. Like I said, I'm just curious to see how exactly all of this does play out. This should be a team, though, that I think should be able to be an offensive line that's decent enough, because again, you're moving Big Jonah to left tackle. I get it. So you move Big Jonah to left tackle, then you already know that you've got already know what you got with Moy, you know what you got with Baker. Leif, our guy Leif, back in the mix. We like having Leif back in the mix because again, he's a good player. But the O-line has to be the O-line. You just want to be able to get depth. So we'll see. Matthew Lotto is going to get a baptism by fire, and that will be an interesting thing to see how that plays out. We will see, though. Now, as far as the skill guys go, one of the dumbest arguments that I've heard people mention all year is something that we are going to talk about here in just a moment. But first, LinkedIn. Check it out, LinkedIn. All right, all kinds of great stuff at LinkedIn, as you know. Everybody knows somebody that got a job at LinkedIn. That is the best part about LinkedIn, is that it works. Post your job for free, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, it works. That is a big thing about all of this. And that you probably know somebody that got a job through LinkedIn. I know somebody. We all know somebody who got a job through LinkedIn. And you maybe if you know like really cool people, you know somebody that hired somebody through LinkedIn. So again, check it out. LinkedIn, again, go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. This is another one of these ones. You will thank me later. And then with it, you can get in there and you can hire people. You can get hired. Also, all the things you need. Check it out, LinkedIn. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, we've got a ton to talk about now with a very, very stupid argument that I am hearing mainly from ASU fans. And the one thing with ASU fans is, again, well, they're certainly trolling, but I love the argument that you keep hearing about, well, Arizona clearly doesn't have a good receiver room because they targeted T-Mac and he had over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, etc., etc. That is stupid. That is one of the dumbest arguments that I've heard. Because here's the thing. If you're going against New Mexico, and New Mexico is playing a single coverage on the best wide receiver in college football, he should get the ball every single time. And if he doesn't get the ball every single time, then there is a big concern about it. And that is something that I think you need to really keep in mind. I would have more concerns about the defense if, let's be honest here, or the offense, if they didn't throw the ball. if T-Mac is seriously open and you're like, you know what, we need to try to get the ball to other people. Yes, there's a time and a place to do that, but not when he's single covered. I think you're going to see against NAU, I think you're going to see Noah basically say, okay, all right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get other people the ball, and you're going to be able to see. Now, like a buddy of mine said, you could tell Jeremiah Patterson caught one pass, but you could definitely tell how quick and shifty he was with that one pass. He's going to be good. He's going to be able to take a lot of those to the house. So there is that. But again, I do not worry about it. I've seen enough. Now, there are some guys that I just don't think are very good. I'd love to be wrong, but somebody like a Montana, for example, maybe he gets involved. But I think this is still very much of the Malachi Riley, Jeremiah Patterson, and you get the tight ends involved too. I think you're going to see a lot of Kean Burnett. And we like it when you see a lot of Kean Burnett. And not only a lot of Kean Burnett, I think you're also going to see some Sam Olsen as well. It's going to be interesting to see everything that does transpire. But overall, Arizona, I think, is going to be in just fine shape. I don't really worry about anything when it comes to the skill position on the offense. As a matter of fact, I think that is people looking for a problem where there isn't a problem that exists. And that's, like I said, that's where I'm at. I think you're going to continue to see the running game run, turn out yards, and that's going to be a big thing. You know, again, you're going to be playing a Kansas State team that Arizona's going to be able to throw the ball for sure, but they're going to have to be able to get the ball and run the ball down a hill. And with Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, with Quali Conley, I think that's going to be able to be an easy thing for Arizona to do. And it's something that you should rely on because, again, they're very good running backs. They're players that honestly just kind of stick out to a certain degree. We talked about it before with Jonah Coleman and with Michael Wiley. I don't think that Arizona's taken a step back in the running back room at all. So we'll see that. But I think that's what you're going to see. But big thing, though, need them to destroy NAU. Don't want to mess around. I don't want this like it was against New Mexico where it's like 27-24 at the half or anything like that. Arizona needs to go out there and just demolish NAU on all sides of the football, and honestly, they should be able to do that. I'm excited to see how that does transpire because that is something that obviously Arizona needs to have happen. Now, tomorrow, we are going to talk about where this team does stand. Again, what you need to see, because then you got New Mexico. Coming up, and with New Mexico coming up, there is NAU. Then you got NAU coming up, and a big part of it is, what to look for. And to me, with games like this, it's far more about Arizona than it is about NAU. Think that you need to have a team in Arizona that just knows this team is overmatched, but also you want to get some of the other players involved. I get wanting to spread the football around, but mainly just work on the contain because, again, you're going against Kansas State next week, and with Kansas State next week, that's going to be a different animal. And then you got Utah after that. So Arizona is going to have to really kind of put this one together. And like we talked about, I got to get a split from Kansas State and Utah. If I get a split from Kansas State and Utah, I feel very good about where Arizona is going for the rest of the season. So we will find that one out. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I know that it was a little bit annoying, some of the stuff that happened in this game, but overall, this team, though, there's still a lot of talent. This team still should be good. Let's not overreact off one game, especially a game where they came out and they took care of business in the second half. We will see, though. But have a great rest of your day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you tomorrow.